Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SLC webinar for today. Today, we're going to be looking at academic phrases that you can use in writing task 2 in the IELTS. Before we start, there are a few instructions to give you regarding the way that we're going to run the webinar. Throughout the webinar, I'll be asking you questions and I'll be asking you to share your ideas and share your responses. So in order to do this, please use the chat box and make sure that you have set your answers to everyone so we can all share your ideas and share our ideas together. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll have some time for questions and we'll do our best to answer your questions. For this section, you can either use the chat box or you can use the Q&A tab, which is at the top on the floating toolbar of your screen, which says Q&A. So today's webinar is academic phrases you can use in writing task 2. So let's look at what we're going to do today. Our main objective today is looking at set phrases that you can include in your essays for IELTS which integrate more complex grammatical structures. So we're looking at band 7, which means you need to use a variety of complex structures and phrases to express your ideas. We're going to look at phrases for introductions, phrases for giving your opinion, and we're going to look at academic style and how you can improve your academic style. So let's start by looking at phrases for introductions. I'm going to show you some pairs of sentences, and I'd like you to look at each pair and decide which introductory phrases could score a higher mark for grammatical range and why. So let's look at the sentence 1A and 1B. So write your ideas in the chat box. Which one do you think could score higher for grammatical range, 1A or 1B? Write your ideas in the chat box. Good, so we have an idea from Aaron, which is 1A. Okay, good. Yes, 1A could score a higher mark for grammatical range. Now, why? Write your ideas into the chat box as to why do you think 1A could score higher for grammatical range? Good. So Aaron's identified our area of grammar that is different in 1A and 1B. So in 1A, the writer has used present perfect. It has become. It has become apparent is a set phrase that you can use to express a change or a trend. Now, this is a slightly more complex grammatical structure than the grammatical structures we see in 1B. The main verbs used in 1B are present simple is and causes. So although the sentences have a very similar meaning, both sentences use some academic vocabulary. 1A is using a more complex structure. Let's have a look at some more sentences. So 2A and 2B. Which sentence do you think is likely to score a higher mark for grammatical range, and why? 2A or 2B? Write your ideas into the chat box. Good, so we have an answer from Simone. 2B shows us that it could score a higher mark for grammatical range because of the use of passive, which is more academic. So the phrase to be, it is often reported that we're using a passive structure in order to express our ideas. So this is another set phrase that you can use to expand your grammatical range. Let's have a look at another pair of sentences. Now these are sentences that you can use in order to tell the reader your plan in the introduction. So which one could score a higher mark, 3A or 3B, and why? Write your ideas in the chat box. Good. So as Simone has mentioned, 3B, and Aaron, 3B is could score a higher mark. 3A is a good introductory sentence to show the reader your plan, but 3B, we're using passive with will, which gives you a slightly wider grammatical range. So as we can see, there are some set phrases that you can absorb and use in your IELTS introductions that are likely to score a higher grade for grammatical range. Let's move on to look at opinions. So I'd like you to share your ideas. Can you write into the chat box, please, which phrases do you already know for giving your opinion in an IELTS essay? Write your ideas in the chat box. So let's share our ideas. What phrases do you use when you want to give your opinion in an IELTS essay, task 2? Good. So we have a variety of phrases. We have in my view, in my opinion, from my point of view. We would often say as I see it. Good. So these are some good phrases that you can use in an IELTS essay to express your opinion. Some things to think about when you are expressing your opinion in an IELTS essay are variety. So make sure that you use a variety of phrases and don't find yourself using the same phrases in each paragraph in order to express your opinion. It's also a good idea to use some impersonal structures. Now, in an IELTS essay, it's possible to use personal structures to express your opinions, such as, in my view, I think, I believe, it is my belief. But it's also a good idea, and it's a feature of academic and formal writing, to include some more impersonal structures. Also, you can, as an example, it appears to be the case that, or it may be the case that. So this is giving an opinion, but in a slightly more impersonal way. You can also use other people's opinions to support or refute your own opinion. So a feature of academic writing and academic essays is to include other people's opinion to show an opposing opinion and then come back to your own opinion. And this is a way to strengthen your ideas and arguments, such as, while it's true to say that, it can also be stated that. Okay, let's have a look at an example of how to use phrases, impersonal phrases, to express your opinions in an essay. So we have an example here. Many governments aim to reduce air pollution levels over the next decade. However, it has been suggested that some authorities would rather invest in industry. So rather than using a phrase such as my opinion or I think, we have an impersonal structure which uses present perfect passive in order to express your opinion. So let's do some practice. Here is a topic, and I'd like you to practice giving your opinion. The topic is junk food is the most significant threat to world health. I'd like you to write in the chat box one sentence to express your opinion on this idea using one of the phrases below. So just one sentence on the topic of junk food, and write your ideas into the chat box, please. As you can see, we have two phrases for giving opinion. It appears to be the case, it has been suggested, and we also have a phrase for giving a strong opinion. If you have a strong opinion on this topic, you can use the phrase there is no doubt that. So write your ideas into the chat box. Good, so we have a sentence from Simone. It has been suggested that junk food can prove itself a threat to world health. Great, so we're expressing opinion, expressing your opinions using present perfect passive in order to do that. Good, and we have a sentence from Magdalena. There is no doubt that unhealthy food is consumed more frequently than before, and cardiac diseases can be developed due to this issue. Good, so we're using these variety of phrases to express your ideas and opinions. Let's move on and have a look at academic style. So in academic style, we need to think about using a more academic style for IELTS essays rather than everyday English language. So let's look at some pairs of sentences and decide which sentences use academic or perhaps more academic vocabulary. We have 1A and 1B. Which one do you think uses uses the most academic vocabulary, 1A or 1B? Write your ideas in the chat box. Good. So 1B uses more. Everybody's got the right answer. 1B uses more academic language. So we have several reasons for this. We have the difference between worries and concerns. Concerns is more academic. And also the difference between biggest and most significant. So we have these choices to use more academic vocabulary to push up your grade for lexical resource. Let's look at another pair of sentences, 2A and 2B. Which one is more academic? Good. 2B is more academic. Why is 2B more academic than 2A? Write your ideas in the chat box. Good. So you've identified the term that is more academic. Rather than not enough, we can choose to use insufficient. So insufficient is more of an academic style. Let's have a look at some more examples of academic phrases as opposed to everyday English phrases. So we've got some sentences using everyday English words, they're more common words. And we need to choose an academic word to replace the everyday English word or phrase. So we have 3 sentences, and the everyday English word has been highlighted for you, and you have 3 choices. So which word can you use in sentence 1 to replace get rid of? Which word in sentence 2 to replace a lot of? And which word in sentence 3 to replace trouble? Write your ideas in the chat box. Good. So you all have the right idea. And let's check our sentences. So number 1, instead of get rid of, we can use eradicate. 2, a lot of, we can use considerable. And 3, trouble, we can use difficulty. And here we have those complete sentences here. So overall, in our webinar today, we've looked at some set phrases that you can use for introductions and opinions that have higher level grammatical structures integrated in the set structures. We've also looked at phrases, specific phrases for giving opinions, and how you can choose a more academic style rather than an everyday style. There are some further resources that you can use to help you improve your academic style. You can use the Academic Phrase Bank, which has been compiled by Dr. John Morley for the University of Manchester. There is a self-study book, Academic Vocabulary in Use, as well as Vocabulary for IELTS Advanced by Pauline Cullen. So there are a variety of academic vocabulary books that you're able to use in addition to the IELTS course books that you may already be using, and in addition to vocabulary for IELTS course books as well. So it's important to make sure you build up a variety of phrases and grammatical structures which are academic to really push your essays up to a band 7 in terms of grammatical structures, lexical resource, and academic style. So those are our main points for today, and now we have some times for questions. So if you have any questions, please write them into either the chat box or the question and answer section at the top and on the floating toolbar, and we will do our best to answer them. Okay, so our first question comes from Magdalena, and the question is about improving ideas. So it's a good point, Magdalena. Often the IELTS essay questions will ask you to think about a specific topic and have ideas about specific topics which you may not have thought about before. One thing to say is that all IELTS questions are tested, so they're for a non-specialist audience. So the topic should not be too specialist for you to start with. So a good way to improve your ideas is to start reading generally about some common topics that often come up in IELTS. So any of you who are taking an IELTS course or have any IELTS course books, the course books should be organized according to theme or topic. So it's a good idea to look at the theme or topic for each of the different units in your coursebook and start doing some extra reading. You look at the newspaper, look for articles about the topic to help you develop your ideas about different topics in general and your general knowledge. In terms of starting an essay and improving your ideas for an essay, exam technique is really important, and you should make sure that you spend time building up your ability to think of ideas around the topic. So building up your brainstorming skills and building up planning skills. One way to do this would be to take 5 different essay questions and spend time thinking of ideas for each one and making a note of each one. If you get to a topic that you get stuck on, then go to journals or articles and try to find a journal or an article that matches the topic to then help you with your ideas in your preparation. And we have an interesting point from Aaron, that it's a good idea to read formal articles or journals on different topics, which will then help you see academic vocabulary in context. So it's very important for you to be able to use academic vocabulary and phrases in the correct way. So by reading different journals or reading about common topics that come up in IELTS, you'll be able to see this kind of vocabulary used in the correct way and then start to integrate it into your vocabulary bank in order to write your essays in the exam. Okay. Thank you very much for attending today, and we hope you've enjoyed the webinar. The webinar will be available on the SLC YouTube channel for you to be able to watch it again in the future, and that should be uploaded early next week. And we will be back in another 2 weeks with another webinar topic, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. And we have the webinar, we have the YouTube channel for SLC in the chat box now for you to take a look at. So thank you very much for attending, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.